can we really let them tell a story with data, right? I mean, what do we really mean by stories? I'll just quickly show a demo of, of these things as well. Just maybe in under 5 minutes, I'll just jump into a demo. What do we really mean by telling a story with data? I'm sure people who have used data for quite some, would be familiar with this. I think, the at a very high level, the storytelling kind of falls into this four, major steps. It's like knowing your audience, crafting the message, compiling the pieces, or you can even call it as the storyboard. How do you really manage a storyboard, and then right, and then finally, it's like the narrating the story. So I think the first one, it always starts with whether it is writing a story or even a BI story, or a digital, storytelling story with data. It absolutely, it is very, very important to know the audience. I mean, as I said, the users are very, very different. Not the same set of dashboard or a report could be, may not be valid for everybody. So I think so. It is extremely important. Say, for example, tomorrow I have a sales review call where I'm really going to show a particular effect of certain things. Maybe, I had a very successful campaign run, and then, we just want to do more. So now, if this is the message or this is the story which I'm really, who am I really going to present this to? Or rather, it could be the other way around, where I'm looking at the sales data and certain things are not right. And I really want the attention or help from somebody else, to take an action, right? So it's extremely important, just like, who's the story for? And then, and who are the stakeholders who really need to pay attention to this, or rather, to take action and all that. And the third point is also extremely important, in terms of what do they really know? What do they already know? And I think, this sometimes, it could most of the times, I have even seen the adoption of a specific dashboard or a BI report tends to be not so good, is mainly because I always used to go to them, hey, why isn't this useful? The first question is, hey, you know what, I already know this. And this is not what definitely I need something else, So I think the current knowledge level of the user in terms of what do they already know is very, very important, before we start building a data story. And how would I like to consume this information? It's like either as a metric, or see, sometimes even this is a common mistake, where we might be producing beautiful visuals and then dashboards, but at the same time, if it is for the operations folks, they would really like to know the granular details, hey, for them to really call somebody, or rather, take actions or something like that, right? So I think it is extremely important to know how the user really would consume the information, right? And what is the best way to even communicate? I mean, this is again a common mistake. Sometimes we spend a lot of time, putting together the fancy dashboards on an iPad, right? But for the folks, in the operations, definitely, what they would be handling a different kind of form factor. And so those things are extremely important, for us to start the story boarding part, which is like to absolutely know who the audience is and around these factors, right? The second thing is crafting the message. What is this particular story about? So what is that say? Say it could be a sales story, or it could be something related to improving the quality of a project or managing a project, anything. It could be about, hey, what, our infrastructure spend is going up. I really want to get some attention on, how do we could optimize the cost, right? All these things are very, very, important in terms of what is the message, we really, trying to convey, and, who are the audience, what issues and problems are we really trying to convey, right? I think, that is, and fundamentally, since we are talking about data story, how do we really back this up, with data, right? The second thing is, while you're doing all these analysis, there could be n number of metrics, which n number of data points you may have. How do we really put them together? Compiling the pieces to answer the story, right? Creating a storyboard. It's usually, the best way to do. You really need an application which helps you do this data exploration, because you might be looking at asking the question from diverse data points. It's not just about anything which doesn't give you the flexibility to look at the data from different perspectives. Hey, I may want to slice and dice this. I may want to look at different variations of trend. I may start with the daily trend, for the last month. Maybe, I would like to go back in time, or maybe, I would like to go farther and then see, if there is a pattern. All these kind of stuff for somebody to do this data exploration. I think, while you do this analysis, finally, there could be the few pieces which you would like to assemble and then, for your to craft your story. I think, that is extremely, important in terms of not doing too much of it is also, sometimes it could defeat the purpose. That's why, there is this concept called intentional discard. Intentional discard is, you deliberately say that, hey, you know what, I think these are the key ones. I would like to discard these elements and then, I would like to put it together. So I'll just show examples of all this, these concepts, while trying to build a story around it, right? And finally, it's like, the narrating the story. I mean, it has to create that wow factor, especially in data analysis. They have this, we have this concept called known knowns and then, unknown unknowns, right? So it's like there are certain, oh, wow, I didn't even know. Sometimes when you're doing this data analysis, there are certain specific questions you have in mind, but at the same time, say, for example, it could be like, hey, show me the daily sales trend for the last 6 months, and suddenly you see that this is interesting. I didn't know that we had this drop on this particular day. I didn't even know. So those kind of emotions, which a data point could trigger, I think that is the success of a good analytic output. So in terms of, there are some very popular, can it really trigger these emotions, when somebody looks at the data? Oh, wow, I didn't know this. Or rather, finally, now I know, okay, why this is even happening, right? I think that is the end goal of any data exercise. At the end of the day, it's not that, we look at these data because we would love to look at it, but at the same time, one is being informed, our ability to take an action, or trying to understand a problem, or trying to do a root cause analysis on certain stuff, or even and making a decision. All of these final outcome is what it's why we are even doing this, right? I think so. The data story has to make this happen, or rather trigger these, or should attempt to trigger these emotions, right?